I'm finally talking about this film. Talk to Me is the latest A24 horror film, and it follows a group of friends that find a way to contact the dead through the use of this embalmed hand. The way they do that is with a game where someone holds onto the hand, does a ritual, and for a brief amount of time, a spirit is able to use said person as a vessel. But of course, in typical horror fashion, that stuff goes sideways very fast, and we have ourselves a movie. I was interested, very interested in fact, to hear that this film was directed by the brothers from RackaRacka. I have a lot of fond memories of watching RackaRacka when I was a freshman in high school. My friends and I do. I would watch a lot of them with my friends. Though I gotta say, when I first heard about this film and I heard that they were directing it, it caught me by surprise for a minute. I was like, really? They're doing a movie? Then I thought about their videos. Birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. And it made sense. It would make sense that all that was leading up to a horror film. I actually watched this film 2 times before I sat down to record this video. Of course, watching a film twice is an interesting experience. You get a better perspective with it, having seen it that first time, having that initial reaction, but also being able to go back and maybe catch some things that you missed the first time, or maybe have a deeper appreciation for it. That last piece being what happened this time. First time I saw Talk to Me, I really enjoyed it. Though I had a lot of nitpicks, probably because, I was experiencing the story that first time and I wasn't watching the film knowing where things were going to end up, knowing where character arcs ended. But watching it this time, I certainly did have that level of appreciation. And after 2 viewings, I love this film so much. The way that this film approaches its story is that it takes inspiration pieces from a lot of different things and blends it together to make something that is original. What adds to this is that the story is very unpredictable. Sometimes what I do when I watch a film is that even though I have seen it, even though I know where things are going to end up, I guess sort of in my mind I can still kind of pretend of okay, what if I was someone watching this film for the first time? What would I be thinking about this? Watching this film again, yeah, you really can't put a finger on and look at scenes and say, oh, this scene is like this, so clearly this film is going over there. Nah, you really can't do that with this film. This film does throw a lot of curveballs and does some weird stuff that you really can't see coming. We need more horror films like this. A lot of horror films are dime a dozen and just very templated, but I love it whenever we can have a horror film that just breaks away from that and becomes just a fresh experience. But also what makes this film different is that it has, of course, A24 has a deeper meaning to it, which I was curious of, knowing that this was RackaRacka directing, because, I love their videos, but they're not great cinema. They're just there to be entertainment, to be very bloody and crass. Here, this film does have underlying messages to it. That this hand game is used as kind of like a representation of people's experiences with drugs, the effects that drugs have on people. It's allegory, it's messaging that you can catch on what this film is trying to say underneath the surface. But it doesn't do that by clearly stating things, having lines of dialogue that are like, oh yeah, obviously, yeah, that's what the movie's saying, yeah, of course. It does that through this horror story. And also the fact that this message is kind of one of those films that comments on the stupid stuff that today's youth and young adults do. That a lot of youth is experimenting with stuff, TikTok is a huge thing, and all these trends on the internet. And now in this film, these characters are pretty much allowing themselves to be possessed to get popular, to have fun, which is a ridiculous concept that could be way funnier in this movie if this film isn't as scary as it is. But it's not one of those horror films that overuses jump scares. There are jump scares in this film that are very effective, that are very startling, where the sound just hits these very sharp, abrupt notes that aren't the usual types of jump scares, but that make sense in scenes. There aren't false scares. Everything that's meant to scare you is real. And of course, the icing on top of the cake, there's some gnarly gore in this. You watch any of RackaRacka's videos, very brutal and just like, wow, that they're showing that in a YouTube video and it looks so real. Oh my gosh, that's disturbingly real. That's in here. But possibly the greatest strength of this movie is the characters. I pretty much liked to loved every single character in this movie. They're not the typical horror movie cliches that are just thrown in there to be sliced up, to just have these horrible things happen to them and they're just kind of stupid and unlikable. The characters are really fun here. They're really likable. You really get invested, especially in one character, and I'll get to that in a minute. Especially these performances that every actor gives in this movie. Between them, there's quite a bit of chemistry. There's some surprisingly cute sequences with certain characters, whether that's between ex-lovers or like a sibling-ish bond. There's actually quite a few sequences in this film of characters just interacting, and it was kind of, I would dare to say, adorable, which I did not expect out of this film. I would not expect ever from RackaRacka. These characters are funny, but also they can have sides to them where, of course, portraying characters that are possessed, these actors bring out sides to their characters that are frightening, that are just uncomfortable to watch, very threatening, but also moments where these actors have very emotional performances. One sequence that impressed me especially is this character that gets possessed and they have to emote for that spirit that's inside of them. Don't want to say too much about it because it can lead to spoilers. I think if you watch the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. I couldn't believe the performance that this actor gave, this teenage actor, talking about all that emotion. A lot of compelling human drama, especially from our main character played by Sophie Wilde, an actress I'm not soon to forget. Out of the horror movies that I've seen this year, she is the closest to being Oscar worthy. But yeah, a lot of development given to her character. And I'll say this because it's in the trailer. Her character is struggling with the death of her mom. And just seeing how she's trying to reach out to avoid being lonely. A lot of scenes in this movie where she's talking to different characters. You get to see the different relationships that she has with all these different people. Great journey for this character. Great character arc. One of my favorite characters of the year, honestly. And to top everything off with this movie, this film has one of my favorite, not just horror movie endings, but I would dare to say one of my favorite movie endings of all time. If it's not iconic, I don't know what people are thinking. But yeah, the way this movie ends, perfect. As far as the bad, I just have one thing. One thing that I did see the first time that I saw this movie, and even watching it again, even though I appreciated it much more and a lot of those nitpicks, gripes that I had the first viewing disappeared, there are some slight pacing issues? Not even issues. I would just say the pacing of the mid portion compared to the ending and the beginning, it's not quite the same. Yeah, that's all I got for the negative. This movie is incredible. I honestly can't believe quite how good this movie is. You know, Scream 6 has meant a lot to me as a horror film this year, but Talk to Me might just be better than that film. It might just be my favorite horror film of the year. It's definitely one of my favorite A24 films. I'm going to give Talk to Me an A. Guys, what are your thoughts of Talk to Me? Leave it down below, whatever it is, in the comment section. And if you like what you see here, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, hit the like button. Make sure to check out what I thought of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, as well as check out this ranking I did for Greta Gerwig's films when Barbie came out. I'll catch you next time.